Welcome back, everybody, into Bill's Chat. I am Josh McCarty. With me tonight, as always, is Luka. Luka, how is your summer going?
It's hot. It's
Yeah.
a, it's a hot summer. I'm sure it is over by you.
Mhm.
It's There was welcome rain recently, but summer's been good. Summer's been good. Got the new place. Enjoying the summer here. I will say, I mentioned to you off air, could use a little bit of air conditioning, but that's a house problem here. So we're sweating it out quite literally behind the camera in front of the mic right now, but it's good to be back. Stuff like that. We're gonna start slowly ramping up here and stuff like that. I know we've been talking through this off season, our own podcasting off season, I guess we can call
Mhm.
it, and it's been an enjoyable one though. It's very relaxing. Things have been great.
Things have been good. And, I think this is good for us too. It's kind of like our training camp because once training camp gets here, we have to be ready for it. So, we're going to do a few episodes here to kind of get us back in the mode of Bills football. And, we didn't want to just put out episodes just for the sake of putting them out in the middle of the summer. There tends to be kind of a dead zone after the draft kind of goes away. And, we weren't going to put out an episode just dedicated to Elijah Moore or something like that. So, and I had a vacation mixed in there. Luca had the house situation, but we are back. It is July. This is a training camp month. Hard Knocks will be at Bill's training camp, which will give us a much more in-depth view. Luca, are you a Hard Knocks fan?
I'm not. I honestly, it's weird because I love the NFL and I love everything that the NFL provides and what football is, but it's really difficult for me to consume things like Hard Knocks. Usually, I love the clips. I mean, that's just it's typical, right? Like I want the highlights, I want the clips, I want the what was it? The Cleveland Browns offensive line coach and his gut lifting as he yepped or
Yeah.
whatever it was, or of course the Rex Ryan quote, "Let's get a goddamn snack," whatever it was. All of those things. Like I love the clips that come out of it, but at the same time, if I have an emotional connection to it, like
Hmm.
we will be having this coming training camp, I'll probably be tuning in weekly, things like that, just out of the curiosity of it all. And we of course have personalities on this team,
Yeah.
primarily to me on the offensive line that I am going to be very intrigued by. Of course, you already know who the primary focus will be on that particular position group, but I mean, even Spencer Brown, I think it was on Eric Wood's show recently. He was asked about it by Eric Wood, and Spencer Brown's like, I like to let it fly sometimes, things like that, where my mother has to remind me kind of the language, what's going on. I will be looking forward to it, but typically, I just it's hard for me to consume stuff of that depth. But I know also at the same time, if say yourself, if you're DMing me, hey, have you seen this episode? Are you checking this out? And I just hear it enough, it's like, okay, I got to tune
Yeah.
in. I got to see what's up. The documentaries are normally what I skew to when it comes to non-game related stuff. So of course, even painstakingly, the Patriots dynasty, for instance,
Mm.
that one was a tough watch, but at the same time, it was interesting, right? Like you're hearing the inner workings of 20 years
And the
of
nightmare's over for us, so I can
right.
enjoy it now. Yeah.
Exactly. Like now you can see what happened behind the
Hmm.
scenes through it all, what they felt like through the controversies that were coming through, like things like that. I can get beyond that. Hard Knocks, where it's kind of manicured, we'll call it, to make sure it's not showing too much, but you get an inside view. If it's not a team I care about, then I generally don't. But I will be looking forward to the Bills one. That one will be a fun watch because we just have that connection to it.
I'll watch every episode for sure. I predict Josh Allen will come off great to fans that aren't super in tune with him because we watch this team enough. We know that Josh Allen is a goofball. He loves the dad jokes. He loves corny jokes. He's really in tune with his teammates. He's not the classic superstar where it kind of feels like he thinks he's above maybe some of that Russell Wilson stuff. But I think Josh Allen's going to come off great. I think Keon Coleman is going to be absolutely lovable on Hard Knocks. I think if they have their way, there's probably going to be a Keon Coleman segment every single week. I do think that if Tre'Davious White gets cut, that's going to be one of those that you almost want to watch like this because holy cow, since 2017, do we have an attachment to that guy? And Hard Knocks will show that. And that conversation with Bean, McDermott, and Tre'Davious White will be hard to watch. It could be as simple as we plan on stay in the parking lot. We plan on signing you back to the practice squad, but still, that'll be tough. But looking forward to that, looking forward to training camp, and looking forward to this Bills season, Luka, where I pull up the Super Bowl odds. And the Bills are right there with the Ravens, plus 700 to win the Super Bowl, favored in the entire NFL. Does that seem right to you?
It's a setup, Josh. It's a setup. No, they should be one of the favorites. Should they be the favorite? It's really tough when you look. The defending Super Bowl champs, the Eagles. How in the world are they not viewed to be a repeat favorite in my eyes?
I stand corrected. Bills, Ravens, and Eagles, all 700.
Okay. Now we're doing a little bit better here. But then I'll also just say it's difficult. This feels like another setup year for when you're going to hear a lot of people thinking the Chargers are going to win that division, or maybe even the Broncos will win that division. How in the world can we be overlooking these pesky SOBs, the Chiefs? It is what it is. The Bills deserve and should be one of the favorites to be to win the Super Bowl. They are a fourth down conversion potentially from winning the AFC Championship game and then at least getting to the Super Bowl last year. Would they have beaten the Eagles? In my opinion, would have been a tough one. We'll just put it that way. That defense is pretty good. And Travis Kelce was just on Bussin' with the Boys, and they asked him about it. And he said they were flying around even as they subbed out their guys. And I was like, yeah, this ain't doing too great. They're a very good team. Now, do I believe the Ravens and Bills are equal? No, I don't. I think the Bills should be half a step up. We'll just call it. I think the Ravens I think the Ravens roster is more well-rounded, I would call it, than the Bills. But at the same time, there's something with the Bills when it comes to Josh Allen as a proven commodity in winning the games when you need to. Even the losses that have come up, it's very difficult to find the fault to be anything related to Josh Allen. It's been that way for a while. The Bengals game is the only one through all the playoff failures, we'll call it, that you could maybe put some fault, of course, on Josh Allen.
And I think we've learned through the years there was some stuff going on behind the scenes in that game.
Yeah, I think there was a lot more under the hood that we don't need to know about, but there was clearly stuff going on.
We know too much about, I think the public does, and I think it probably should just forget that.
Right. That is an outlier, as they would call it. So when you look at all the other, reality, it's Chiefs games. When you look at all the other Chiefs games, unfortunately, the losses have been there, but it's not because of 17. And he is the reason that we've been led to success. And then on top of it, you also have other components that are proven to step up when you need it to. It's just we've fallen short against that other guy who has figured it out in spades to get over the finish line with the win. So the Ravens, on the other hand, don't really have that. They don't have that track record. They don't have that history recently that would provide you confidence thinking that they can go all the way to the Super Bowl. Every time it feels like finally pressure is on for them to perform, they really never show up. The last time I can remember the Ravens winning a playoff game where you questioned if they actually were going to be able to get over the finish line, and they did provide that win, was at one-seeded Tennessee, if I recall. Maybe they were two-seeded, whatever at Tennessee. I recall them winning a game on the road in Tennessee.
COVID year, so the crowd was non-existent. But yeah, you're right. They beat Tennessee.
Right, and it was an upset at the time. And that's one of those ones that it's like, okay, they won a game that you really question if they could win. That's the last time they did it. Outside of that now, you just haven't seen them be able to win those games. And even the one last season, it was, I mean, everything was there for them to win that game, and a reliable option for them. Someone that they want. I would tell you 10 out of 10 times, they probably want that same play drawn up the exact way it was, because that's a reliable weapon for them to use in the pass game. Mark Andrews just shops the ball. Like they develop ways to just come up short as a collective. And the Bills don't quite have that track record. They just have a couple lapses. They have a couple moments that just didn't go their way, or the Chiefs just got it over the line barely. And that's where I kind of if I were to put it in a odds perspective, I would probably say the Bills should be, let's say they're at plus 700 like it is, and the Ravens would be plus 750 or plus 800. Like we're talking small margins here, but overall, it's a little surprising that they're matching favorites to win the Super Bowl, but they should be up in that mix, of course, because Josh Allen always gets you there. Like he's always going to give you a chance, and he'll get you a fourth down conversion away from potentially winning the game to get there in the first place. So, yeah, I mean, it feels right, but I don't know if they should be the outright favorite or tied for favorite. I think the Eagles are definitely a class above everyone else, in my opinion. I think the Chiefs are still the Chiefs until proven otherwise. I refuse to believe anything else. And then that's where then the Bills and the Ravens feel like they come up next.
Yeah, the Chiefs thing is weird. It has to be the belief in the Broncos and the Chargers to at least push them, because you know how odds work this time of year. It's really who do you feel most comfortable about is going to be in the playoffs, and the Bills and the Eagles, for that matter, just jump off the page when you look at the rest of the division and what a laughing stock the rest of the AFC East has really been, despite the fact that you and I both believe that the Patriots have taken some positive steps this offseason. The Dolphins continue to spin their wheels, and the Jets are going to roll out Justin Fields as a starting quarterback for them this season. So it's hard to really imagine that Justin Fields and whatever's going on in Miami can put out more wins than a Josh Allen led Bills team. Luka, the Bills now are, let me do some quick math here. They drafted Josh Allen in 2018. They are going into year 8 of this Josh Allen ride, where we've now seen an MVP.
Crazy.
We've seen multiple All-Pros. We've seen multiple trips to the AFC Championship game. And quite honestly, we've seen a guy who is probably going to wind up in Canton. They have yet to win a Super Bowl. Is the 2025 Bills season Super Bowl or bust?
Yeah, it is. I don't think it's win the Super Bowl or bust, but you got to get there. You have to. This upcoming season feels like one where even the things that could be going against you, you at least have you have a favorable thing about it. The primary thing that I think of in that case is all of your difficult opponents, all of them are at home. You wouldn't want to be playing the Chiefs on the road, of course. You don't want to be playing the Ravens on the road. You don't want to play the Eagles on the road. You don't want to play the Bengals on the road. You want to play all those guys at home. You have them all at home. All the difficult hiccups you have in your schedule, luckily, are coming to your house. So you should be able to mitigate where the problems lay, because a lot of those that are potentially there are at least in your backyard, and you should be able to handle your own environment. So that's one thing going in your favor. Two, as you mentioned with the division, this division feels like it's at its weakest point it's been for a long time. The Patriots have done some positive things, but then again, you remember Mac Hollins is their legitimate number 2 right now. That's interesting. Their defense is a problem. You know, when the Bills play the Patriots, they're probably going to be some dogfight games, which sucks, but also at the same time, I'm not exactly fearing Bob Spillane as their Mike when it comes to stopping Josh Allen and being the quarterback on their defensive side to ultimately overcome what Josh Allen will do with this offense. So do I think they're going to be a legitimate threat? No, but it's a trickle down from there. The Patriots, in my eyes, are the favorites to be the second best in the division. I think the Patriots, also having a 4th place schedule, have even a chance potentially, even with 2 losses to the Bills, to maybe even squeak into the playoffs. Like they could do something like that because they have a much better coaching staff in place. They've made improvements. Their defense is significantly better in my eyes. And overall, they could find themselves winning a lot more games, just also due to the weak schedule. The Dolphins and the Jets, though, they've been head scratchers. They have been, they're rough to look at. I mean, Justin Fields has not done anything to put confidence in you that he's going to do anything more than maybe win 6 games for you in total over a whole season. The Jets also continue to be the Jets. Like, things come out constantly where it's like it feels as if the head coach hire you make is the potential for a culture change, but then all of a sudden you're still doing the same old BS you're doing. Like, making Aaron Rodgers fly across the country to have a conversation how you don't want him there.
Yeah.
You could have done that over phone.
That could have been a text. Like
Could have been
save the flight.
As much as a lot of individuals don't like Aaron Rodgers and stuff, disrespecting an individual's time like that is that's bold.
And he's not just any old player. Like he's a Mount Rushmore-esque level player, despite the kookiness of the end of his career.
Yeah. So to kind of put that stamp of you are the authority and do it in that manner, it's childish in my opinion, and it's just classic Jets also. And then the Dolphins are doing things. I loved how you refer to it. They're almost just random trading on Madden and seeing what works, and it's actually working out for them. But is it actually going to work out? Probably not. Jalen Ramsey wasn't happy, so they moved him over to Pittsburgh along with Jonnu Smith, which Pittsburgh's rapidly becoming a retirement home. And then on top of it all, you bring back Mika Fitzpatrick, who really hasn't had a good season for the past 2 years. So I don't know what you're gaining out of that. And then, I mean, I just, what is the identity of the Dolphins at this point? Because what it's been has been high fly offense and then just being able to pass rush and do everything. But your defense is just a shell of itself. And the best receiving consistent weapon you had last year somehow was Jonnu Smith, which makes no sense in its own right. But you just moved it because Arthur Smith wanted it in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of question marks in this division. So going back, circling all the way back to your original question, Josh, because it's been long-winded. This is Super Bowl or bust because the road to get there feels as straightforward and simple as possible. And therefore, you have a lot of things going your way. And ultimately, we saw how last season ended. And really, you just need to convert that fourth down. You need to do that one next thing. You need Kincaid to catch that ball. You need that one moment. That's all it's going to take to finally get over that hurdle and make it to the game. And that's all that matters this year, because everyone sitting here right now believes that this team got better in a multiple ways, whether it's significant or minor. That's secondary. They got better. So therefore, what is stopping this team than doing better from what it was last year, which was being 1 or 2 plays away from finally getting over that line and getting to the Super Bowl? That's the real question. And my reality is, simply put, it is Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah, I think it is Super Bowl or bust too. I mean, the fact is, like, this team has to get it done. They're within an eyelash of getting it done now multiple years in a row. I'll take it one step further. I think it's 1 seed or bust. I think, they can obviously make the Super Bowl without getting to the 1 seed, but the way it sets up this year with the schedule they have, the strength of schedule they have, you mentioned all their toughest games in Buffalo, what many would say the biggest home field advantage in the sport. They were undefeated at home last year. All of this sets up for a Bills team to have a great look at the 1 seed. Now, look, things happen. Life happens. If Josh Allen, God forbid, were to get injured in camp and miss the rest of the season, certainly the conversation changes with 17 games of Mitch Trubisky. But in a world where Josh Allen stays healthy, and as deep as this roster is, I think there's a lot of conversation about this Bills roster that, they don't have the star power of the Ravens or the Eagles. But I think why sites like PFF and analysts love this Bills team is what they lack in A-plus players. I think they really only have 1 A-plus player. They have a ton of B-plus players. And that is so massive for the war of attrition that is the NFL. It's hard to come up with an injury outside of Josh Allen that could really tank this season. Maybe Benford, just because of the fact that you're looking at Tre'Davious White, Dane Jackson, but we've seen Sean McDermott survive with questionable secondary, and we've seen Bean flip picks mid-season when he loses his top corner. So I wouldn't even say that would be something that tanks their season. You want to say Ed Oliver or Greg Rousseau? This is a team that just drafted 3 defensive linemen in the draft. They signed Joey Bosa. That they should be okay there. I don't think anybody at safety is good enough to say they would tank the season. We saw what Dorian Williams can do in extended play. Maybe Deion Dawkins or Spencer Brown going down would be a bad thing, but they've had now a year to groom Grable. That Vandermark played against the Chiefs last year for Spencer Brown, and the Bills won that game. We all believe in Aaron Cromer. It's just hard to see a situation where this Bills team has enough injuries with Josh Allen healthy, and you're thinking they can't get it done. So with that being said, we both agree it's Super Bowl or bust. What does the bust look like? Is there a scenario where the Bills make the playoffs and let's say they don't lose to a team in the first round that's starting Anthony Richardson at quarterback? Like they lose to a real team, probably the Chiefs, in similar fashion. Is there a scenario where you think this could be McDermott's last year?
No. It's a weird thing to say, but in that scenario, no. I mean, to fire McDermott, it would have to be cataclysmic. It would have to be losing to Anthony Richardson in the Colts in the playoffs, like
in round one, like going backwards. They've been in round two the last 5 years. They're the only team besides the Chiefs to say that.
Yeah. Finally making the playoffs and losing in the wild card round for the first time since 2019. Like doing something where it's like, wait. What the hell is going on all of a sudden? Mm-hmm. We took a step forward. We slowly impacted this roster in a positive way. Why all of a sudden have we gone from a couple plays away to 3 games away? Like what happened? And that would be where I think even conversations would be had. And I'm not even confident that McDermott would be fired in that instance. But if let's say we rinse and repeat, same old thing happens, Josh. Somehow, some way, we have those Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl, and somehow, some way.
Boy, it's hard to imagine it, isn't it?
Somehow, some way.
YouTube Bills Chiefs.
We just can't get through them.
Yeah.
If that happens, it will just be a rinse and repeat when it comes to what that coaching staff looks like. It'll be a rinse and repeat what this roster will be broken down like. We'll probably no longer have Cook on this roster, but we'll have other pieces elsewhere. Things like that will be happening. I believe that to be the case simply because I don't think Terry Pegula wants to pay 2 people at once. And I think it comes down to money. It's just strictly a money thing. I don't trust Terry to understand what would need to happen at that head coaching position, nor do I think he wants to deal with that. And I think he thinks what he has is perfectly good and is healthy for the culture, and Beane's happy and McDermott's happy, which makes ownership happy. And as long as ownership's happy, why would you change that? I think Terry Pegula is in a very comfortable place with the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
And that sucks if you really want someone to be pissed off about wanting to be better. But at the same time, it's going to take a significant loss or a significant issue to change that. That's the only thing that can happen. And to change that, I don't believe Terry would be too reactionary with the Bills, like something you've seen with the Sabres over all these years. I don't think it would come at that because there's just too long of a track record of success. However you want to define that success, that's up to you. It is a level of success. That is the bottom line. I mean, the Bills are the second most winningest team since 2019. Mm-hmm. Blah, you can go down all the stuff. Like it's the Bills and Chiefs. It's this what the NFL has become since 2020. It's the Bills, it's the Chiefs, and CBS loves to buy it every year. It refuses to let it go away. That is just the reality of the NFL. And for that reason, and Terry just being happy with what it is and being a little bit tight with his wallet, that is what you're going to get. That's not even meant to be a shot necessarily entirely at Terry Pegula. I have my own gripes with Terry and how he runs the other organization on his track, on his in his black book. But
yeah,
how he handles the Bills is fine, and he's happy with it. And overall, it's like that's just going to be the reality of this Bills team, even if they were to do the same old damn thing and we don't end up at the Super Bowl.
I wonder if Terry Pegula trusts himself to find another coach because he struck gold with McDermott, relatively speaking. People want to say McDermott rode Josh Allen's coattails. He ended the playoff drought with Tyrod Taylor and Nathan Peterman combined. And Joe Webb had a hand in one of those games too. Um, right now, Sean McDermott is the fourth longest tenured head coach in the NFL, behind only Andy Reid, Mike Tomlin, and John Harbaugh. He's tied with guys like McVay and Shanahan. And some owners and some teams wear that as a badge of honor, because you know how it goes in the sport, Luka. You fire a coach, you can find yourself on that merry-go-round of every 2 or 3 years. You keep firing and keep turning it over. And you certainly don't want to give off the impression that you don't know what you're doing when Josh Allen is your quarterback. I think it's also important to know that Pagula has been laughable at his attempt to find the right Sabres coach over the years. And I think people do forget that he did have 2 kicks at the can of head coaches in the NFL before McDermott came around. Doug Marrone took one look around, having a half a season with Terry Pagula, and said, I'm out of here. He just resigned. And then Terry Pagula landed on Rex Ryan, who lasted here 1 year and 15 games, and the rest of the league hasn't had any interest in since. So he found McDermott, credit to him. I think there's a lot of people that believe Kim Pagula deserves a lot of credit for that. And for reasons that we obviously all understand, I don't believe she would be involved in any decision moving forward. I think there's a lot of reason to believe Russ Brandon probably had a lot of hand in that. And he's obviously not involved with the organization anymore. Got an email from the UFL, by the way, that gave me some PTSD, where it was like, Russ Brandon thanks the fans. That was the title of it. And I was like, what is happening right now? And then I realized it was from the UFL, and I didn't realize I was signed up for it. So yeah, I was like, Russ Brandon. My thing is, I am with you. I don't think I would predict that the Bills would make a coaching change. But even if they did, what's a name that would interest you? Because to me, there's one name that I just keep coming back to. And I know he's like gotten more controversial over the years, and it didn't end well at his last stop. And now he's in college and it's going worse. But like, Belichick, we've seen what Belichick can do when the quarterback is good. Belichick's teams were just historically known for being buttoned up in key situations. And you don't have to worry about like riding the Mac Jones merry-go-round of Jacoby Brissett. It's like, no, you got the golden goose. Belichick, come here and fix our defense and try your best not to mess up our drafts. Like, that's what we need you to do. That would be like the one name. And I don't know, this feels almost like, I don't want to get too deep into this because it's almost like a catastrophe situation, but maybe a larger question here. Do you live in the same fear bunker that a lot of fans do of, boy, it could get a lot worse if you let McDermott go? Or is your patience level where it's like, okay, McDermott's had enough kick at the cans here with the Chiefs, where if it still goes awry this season and they lose by an eyelash, maybe it's time to figure out, is there somebody better for the job?
So I think there's a way to live in both, but at the same time, I definitely lean. I don't think the grass is greener at this moment. I just don't believe that there is this clear cut, bona fide, absolute home run hire out there. I don't believe Belichick is that for what it's worth. I think there's just concerns with Belichick and kind of how he views life on the day-to-day now. I almost question if the fire is even there, to be quite honest. There's Belichick has just gotten a little strange to me. Once he started making regular appearances on the McAfee show, and I love the McAfee show. I consume it on the daily. But once Belichick was a regular guest there, Josh, I started questioning where his desires and kind of where he wanted to be in life and what he truly cared about anymore. Because I think part of that aura that led to his success was truly his focus, and just everything was ball. Like, he didn't want to deal with media. He didn't want to deal with anything else outside of what was happening in those offices, and just everything he could do from a week to week, from a month to month with that team. That's all he cared about. It's just his life. And it takes that level of dedication, as we've seen, to find the success that he did. So when you don't see that all of a sudden with him, and you're seeing all these question marks on what's going on with, I mean, there are still live odds on if Belichick will be coaching that North Carolina team come week 1. That's a crazy thing to think about when kickoff is a month and a half away.
Ooh, getting close.
Wild. So I just don't see that stud absolute can't miss hire out there. It could come in time. Like, your Ben Johnson could emerge all of a sudden. There could be that person that clearly defines themselves, and they will be lining up to be a coach for a Josh Allen. You want to be a coach for a Josh Allen-led team. It's the dream job. But I don't know who that is. And honestly, it's funny because you look at the losses and you look at the reasons and the game management and all of these kinds of things as to why the Bills seasons were cut short the way that they were. And it does feel McDermott led. It feels like that's the common conversation. There was a lot of jokes and laughs when, what was it recently? People have been posting on social media the random flashbacks of Bills moments, and the Bills moment of EJ Manuel driving down the field for his first career win happened to be against a Sean McDermott coordinated defense in the Carolina Panthers,
where they gave up 13 points in one game.
Yeah, they gave up 13 points in one game, but all of a sudden they were playing super off coverage on a game-winning drive situation. Mm-hmm. Wow, that looks very familiar.
Nobody covered Stevie.
Interesting, one guy. Interesting situation. Crazy how that happens. There's this weird connect there. But what I will just say in a positive way is I believe McDermott to be someone that learns from his mistakes. It seems like it happens at a very slow pace, but he learns from his mistakes. And you're seeing this slow transition, his game management. If you think about the way games were managed from, let's call it 2019 to 2020, from that moment to now, it's light and day different. I mean, it is so much better. He understands a lot more of the dynamics from the play to play and in between the play and kind of the time management as well that goes into it and all that. It feels like he's starting to truly get in that head coaching rhythm. And you would have liked that to have happened a lot more sooner than 7-8 seasons, but that's the reality we live in here. I believe you're also seeing that happen though when it comes to personnel decision making and what he wants to set up. He's evolving in where his mindset is when it comes to how to structure the defensive side of the ball and the team structure. He's learning from these mistakes he makes where, yes, it makes that 1 to 2 moments of failure, just it highlights them even more. But honestly, like you go through the progression of everything that's happening, it does feel like McDermott's trending positively. It's been painful. It has been brutal what has happened. But if you think about how we just lost in this AFC championship compared to the 2021 divisional, compared to the 2020 AFC championship, I mean, you are 1 to 2 plays away compared to just a cataclysmic, awful breakdown of coaching lapse, error, and time management disaster. And then even before then, you got coached out of the entire stadium. Yeah. So there is improvement. There is an understanding of what needs to happen from a head coaching position with McDermott that is trending positively. So in my eyes, someone that has a positive work ethic, has an understanding of exactly the culture he wants, is willing to evolve and change in a positive way to hopefully correct issues that he's clearly recognized within himself and how he originally operated with certain things. It feels like eventually it will happen. Like there is a progression that's still happening, and it is extremely slow, but it is still underway. And that's where, if you were to rinse and repeat and the same thing happened, it's not, to me, I don't believe that unless it's the 2021 divisional, unless it's things where all of a sudden you saw this clear regression and understanding things. I don't see that happening. It's just McDermott doesn't feel like that type of guy. So if all of a sudden we're having this conversation again, like where could you get better? I don't know where that truly lies. I don't think, again, the Belichick idea in theory feels like a nice one, but also you're not getting 2010, 2003 Belichick. You're getting 2020, at that point, 2026 Belichick. feels like a very different individual than what was that successful one. So I don't know what rock you can turn over to get something that's better than McDermott right now, that unless something is just so horribly wrong that this team regressed 5 steps, McDermott's going to be most likely your best option moving forward. And that's just the reality of it.
You know, I feel like there's a segment of Bills fans and national reporters that'll just never forgive McDermott for 13 seconds and what happened there. And it's one of those things where anytime you want to make a case that Sean McDermott is an overrated head coach or doesn't belong in that upper echelon, all you have to do is point to 13 seconds or go back to 2017 and point to him benching Tyrod for Peterman, which I will still say was the right call, by the way. It did not have the right result, but people forget how bad Tyrod was. In the Saints game leading up to that. That is neither here nor there. But let's talk about McDermott for a second. PFF Luka came out with a list of the top 10 returning coaches this week, and McDermott was not on the list. Names like Kevin Stefanski were on the list. Dan Campbell, Mike Tomlin, Kyle Shanahan, Nick Sirianni just won a Super Bowl. But no Sean McDermott on the list. And I'll just say this. I feel like there's a large segment of people that if anything goes bad with the Bills, they blame McDermott. Anything goes good, they say, well, of course, you have this all-world quarterback. And Josh Allen won an MVP last year, and the biggest argument for him winning MVP was like, look how many games he won, look how good the offense was, and there wasn't a lot around him. But McDermott gets no credit for taking a team to an AFC championship game where there wasn't a lot around Josh Allen. That's debatable, but we can say it. We already talked about the fact that the Bills are one of 2 teams in the entire sport that since 2020 have made it to at least the second round of the playoffs every single year. And that includes a year, Luka, where in one season, the Bills saw their biggest free agent investment in Von Miller get carted off, have a season end with a torn ACL on Thanksgiving. They had a game move from Buffalo to Cleveland due to blizzard. They saw a player on their team die on the field, and Josh Allen had a tear in his UCL, and he still navigated that team to the second round of the playoffs. And you can talk about the year after that, where the Bills started off 6-6, lost the game against Denver that you were at, and the next day, McDermott fires Ken Dorsey, and the Bills rip off 7 wins to get to the playoffs and make it back to the second round of the playoffs. And again, folks were like, oh, he made Dorsey the scapegoat. Did he, or did he understand where his team was, understand what change was needed, and the team changed the way they did offense, and it morphed into we played safe the rest of the season, won the playoffs, and then the best Bills offense from a point standpoint we had seen in years ended up evolving under Joe Brady last year. I think there's enough examples of good McDermott keeping this team on the rails where the consistency it takes in this sport to get your team to the second round of the playoffs 5 years in a row cannot be undersold. So I am with you that the grass is not greener, and it's not just as simple as, okay, he loses to the Chiefs again this year, go find the next coordinator under McVay, or figure out whoever Andy Reid's latest protege is, or the Pittsburgh Steelers get rid of Mike Tomlin. Let's go bring him in because he won a Super Bowl 15 years. I'm not the biggest Tomlin guy, by the way. I do think that the McDermott conversation has gotten very unfair, and there's this idea that he's just riding Josh Allen's coattails.
Yeah, I agree. I love everything said. I mean, and even on top of it, the Bills are the only team to make at least the divisional round every year since 2020 without a 1 seed.
Yeah.
That is just, that tells you they get there and they actually even find playoff success every single year against any form of adversity, whatever the heck that season had going on. You laid out a bunch of it. They are the only ones to have done that. And that in its own right is extremely impressive. I mean, the Bills in the playoff success that they've had, even had the unfortunate situation where they really haven't had the ability to get a bye. They've had to deal with it each season going through it, and they've still found their way navigating it all, even with all the injuries, any other issues, and just have fallen short due to some lapse that have happened. But yes, those are McDermott things, but I loved what you did. You laid it all out. It's like there have been enough positives out there to give McDermott it's not even just a benefit of the doubt. It's a proven track record that there has been improvement. There's been an understanding, self-reflection, whatever you want to call it, to know what he needs to do to better both himself as well as the team. And that is great. That's what you need your head coach to be. He is the management of the players and the team and what they need to be to find their greatest success. And in my opinion, and I think it's as well as yours, and it should be a lot of ours, McDermott feels like the best option for that moving forward as it currently stands. And it would be very difficult to see it any other way at this moment in time, or even after a season this year where they weren't able to achieve their goal of a Super Bowl.
Hopefully the Bills can achieve their goal. Training camp is starting up here very, very quickly. We are already into July, and we'll be finding out soon what the story is for the 2025 Buffalo Bills, Sean McDermott and reigning MVP Josh Allen. The story for Bills Chat is we'll be back next week with another Bills topic for you to enjoy. Before we get out of here, Luka, we'd like to remind the folks, please take a moment to subscribe and like our YouTube channel. We do have a giveaway. It is a Keon Coleman signed football that we cannot wait to give away once we hit our benchmark.
Mini helmet, not football.
Mini helmet, excuse me. Keon Coleman signed mini helmet. We cannot wait to give away once we hit our goal of 500 subscribers. We are inching ever so close. Make sure when you subscribe to our channel, you send us a screenshot on Twitter, Bills Chat Pod. Let us know you're in, and you will get entered into the drawing for the mini helmet. Anything else you'd like to get into, Luka, before we get out of here?
No, that's it. It's good to be back and stuff like that. I can't wait to keep doing this kind of stuff. And I mean, I was at the barbershop earlier today. We were talking a little bit of ball, and it felt like football was just around the corner. We're not trying to speak away the summer. We want to enjoy the summer. But boy, you can just smell that autumn air, Josh. You can smell it. It's right there. Training camp at the end of this month. All of a sudden, we're going to be in preseason games, which I sure as shit won't be watching. And the next thing you know, we're going to be in regular season, Josh, and it's going to be fantastic.
I'm traveling to Buffalo for a preseason game.
You're going to be in Buffalo when I'm not here. That's fantastic.
I'm committed to taking my daughter to see the stadium before it gets torn down. And I realized that at 10 years old, my odds of enjoying the experience with a kid who has to go potty every 15, 20 minutes and, wants to see the stadium and check out the snacks and take a look around, I'd rather do preseason. I can't be like having Bills and Bengals regular season going on and Joe Burrow is driving down for the game when he touchdown and she's like, Dad, I want a pretzel. You take that pretzel and you shove it. I'm just kidding. But I will be coming back multiple times this year. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to preseason. Looking forward to our show next week. For Luka, I am Josh McCarty. We will talk to you next time on Bills Chat.